Hello, everyone, and welcome to another segment of Lore You Should Know. That is where we go into little bits of Dungeons & Dragons lore for you to use in your game or just for you to know because it's fun. I am Greg Tito. I'm joined by Mr. Chris Perkins.
Hi.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
You are here to discuss Thay.
Oh, Thay.
Not necessarily, because I think we've done one of these on the Red Wizards of Thay specifically, but we're going to talk more about Thay, of course, including a lot of the Red Wizards.
Yeah, it's hard to separate the people from the place.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I just want to know about the geography.
Oh, okay. Well, this is going to be short then.
There's land and sea. Done.
Right. So, the continent of Faerun, which is a vast, vast continent on the world of Toril, a.k.a. the Forgotten Realms.
Yes.
If you were to sort of start on the Sword Coast, sort of the westward edge of this great continent, and continue east, inland, for, about 3,500 miles.
Whoa.
You would eventually come, after crossing the Sea of Falling Stars and passing over such glorious nations as Cormyr and Sembia and Rashaman, a gigantic plateau, hundreds of feet tall, soaring high into the sky, and so vast as to be almost like a just impossibly long plateau, perched atop which is an entire nation known as Thay.
And they have always been...
They of Thay.
They of Thay have always been on this plateau? That's where there's like civilization was born?
That's where the civilization stands today. That's where it's stood for time immemorial.
Interesting. Did they always have the nasty reputation that they currently have?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. As many wizards who abuse their power, their magic, are similarly guilty of. But Thay is a magocracy. It is a society built on on power and magic. And magic is supreme. And those who are in charge are the most powerful wizards in the land.
So they become like the top caste level of
Exactly, and it is a caste society.
Mm.
There are the Wizards of Thay, or more precisely, the Red Wizards of Thay, called that because of their red robes. They rule the empire, the magocracy, and everybody else is beneath them in a subordinate class, in a lower caste.
Yeah.
And the plateau is meant to be symbolic in a way. It typifies this notion that Thayans think of themselves as above everyone else, as superior in every way. And the height sort of reflects that arrogance.
Interesting. So they're literally looking down upon the rest of Faerun.
Exactly, yes.
Wow.
Yes. And when red wizards show up in far-flung places like LYSK or Waterdeep, they're greeted with great suspicion because of the reputation that they bear, which is of a conquering people who like to dominate and control everything and everyone around them.
That would have a bad reputation for all their neighbors.
Yeah, they're generally speaking lawful evil bent.
Got it.
Now there are exceptions to every rule, of course. Not every red wizard is a evil tyrant, but many of them aspire to be, and their leader is the epitome of that.
Who's their leader?
Zastam, the Lich, tried to be a god, didn't quite make it, which really gets under his skin.
Does he have skin?
He doesn't. He has desiccated skin. He's not a skeletal lich in the way he's just bones, under robes. He's still got some skin on him, but he's all dried out and emaciated, almost mummy-like. Oh. And he is the greatest of the Zulkirs, which are the wizards who preside over each school of magic in Thay. His school being necromancy, duh. And yeah, he tried to do what an old Netherese wizard back in the day tried to do, a wizard named Karsus, which is cast a spell that can turn him into a god. But it didn't work, and so he still languishes as an undead in the world, but is considered to be one of the great villains of the Forgotten Realms campaign setting.
And it's been that way. How long has he been ruling Thay?
Long time.
Centuries.
Yeah, and he's been in the game a long time, ever since Thay was first talked about in first edition in a product called Dreams of the Red Wizards. Zastam has been a central figure from there on. He also appeared prominently and on the cover of Unapproachable East, a third edition hardcover book that I particularly liked. I think it was one of the stronger FR products to come out of third edition.
That is pretty cool. I
Yeah.
like the title, Unapproachable East.
Yes, exactly. Well, Thay is not alone in the East. There are other realms out there that are considered to be dangerous or threatening.
To the Sword Coast.
Yeah.
How was Thay founded? Like, when did the Mageocracy kind of
good lords.
make its? I don't necessarily need to know when, but like how in the far reaches of like how is it older than Waterdeep? Is it?
Let's find out very quickly.
Okay. Yeah, because there is this idea of this ancient evil that I want to make sure is correct. I have in my head, as you're knowing, like they've been around for a long time in the game. So I want to see if that ancient evil is
More
true.
than 1,000 years.
More than 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the establishment of the Zulkirs as the ruling body of Thay isn't that old. It's about 400 years old.
Okay.
But so the realm is about 1,500 years old.
Interesting. All right. So like right around the new calendar then.
Mm-hmm.
What was it about
Yes. Zastan became a lich in 1159 DR, in case you're curious about that.
I was curious about that.
That would be about 300 years ago.
Okay. So somewhat recently that they've been more politically active in that way, right?
Yeah.
What's it like for the day-to-day if there were adventurers who were going into Thay? What would they encounter?
The first thing they might notice is that Thay employs a lot of undead in roles of defense. You know, why throw living soldiers at a problem when you can just reanimate your dead enemies and put them on the border? So there's a sort of ghastliness to that that becomes readily apparent when you start moving into their territory. I think what you also feel when you enter Thay is the weight of oppression. People who, well, it's actually more complicated than that. People in Thay actually are pretty safe. You know, the wizards who oversee them they're not taking out their angers or frustrations or at all on the populace. All of Thay's aggression is directed beyond its borders. So if you live in Thay, I guess it would be akin to living in Nazi Germany if you're a German. You know?
Yeah.
Until there's an actual external threat to you, you don't feel threatened. Or you just learn to live in the society you're in and have a generally peaceful existence where the government doesn't overburden you.
I see. And then is there, agriculture and
there's agriculture,
mercantile things,
exactly,
just like
all the normal things, and they do trade with outsiders. People do come to Thay to trade and whatnot, and that's perfectly allowed. It's not like as soon as you cross the border, they're going to check your papers and then throw you in a prison or enslave you or something.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's exported from the plateau that could only be, do they create more magic items?
They
than
do.
Other?
They're one of the most sophisticated modern magical societies in the Forgotten Realms, and as a consequence, a lot of what comes out of there is magic. Now it's guarded in some respects. They may create potions and scrolls and sell those abroad, but they're not going to give away their most powerful magic.
Right.
That they'll turn on their enemies.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it might be a reason why adventurers are going there.
Yes. Yeah.
To find some of this.
Yeah. Now, in recent products, we've shaken up Thay a little bit to indicate that there's some turmoil. That the status quo there is kind of unsteady. This idea that there are Thayan wizards who would like Zastam to go away.
He's fallen out of favor because of his failed spell?
Not necessarily that, but because of his manner of dealing with other wizards and the fact that he's just got a horrible reputation.
Right. So they're trying to depose him.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Red Wizard exiles who no longer feel like they're safe in Thay and have traveled abroad and tucked themselves away in remote places out of Zastam's reach, in theory, so that they can stage an uprising and sweep away all the death and undeath and the domination of necromancy. Because that's one of the issues that Thay deals with. While you can be a wizard of any school and like abjuration, transmutation, whatever, the school of necromancy really kind of holds true power there because of Zastam and his pearl clutching.
I see.
So there are a lot of wizards who would like to see the other schools prosper.
Like, why doesn't illusion get all the cool stuff that necromancy gets?
And I mean, there are illusionists, red wizard illusionists, who are perfectly happy to serve under this lich regime.
Yeah.
If it serves their own interests. But yeah, so there's a lot of instability in Thay. And it's probably good because that sort of keeps Thay from organizing and becoming a Third Reichish world-threatening thing.
And that has happened in the Forgotten Realms past, right?
Yeah. We've used Thay to various extents over the years as a, hey, DM, if you want an uber threat to the nations, a political uber threat, Thay is a really good choice.
Right. What kind of wars has it been in? You know, has it fought Cormyr? Has it fought the Lord's Alliance?
It's fought a lot of people.
Yes, and yes.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think if there's been anything recent. There are all these different battles and things, but full-scale war, nothing within the past 100 years.
I see. So it's been a rebuilding century for them as Zastam's. When did that spell fail? Was that in a product? Is that why?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit in the Unapproachable East. So there are things you can do and things you can't do, and we don't have a spell that says become a god.
Right.
But as a story device, Zastam's rise to power. There was a novel about him too, and I'm spacing on the name of it, which really got into Zastam's head. Goodness.
Because he was used as the narrator,
Yeah, he was a central focus or a focus character. Oh, what was
That's
it called?
fantastic.
Good Norse. Can't remember. My brain is spacing. Sorry, folks. It's Friday afternoon.
It's a Friday afternoon. Things are going.
Yeah.
So, while this can be used as a political threat, for sure, it sounds like the foiling of his spell was something that adventurers had done. Is that not true?
Yeah, there's... Yes. But part of it, too, is hubris, right? I think he just bit off more than he could chew.
I see. With his unhealthy teeth.
It's never easy becoming a god. You need worshipers, for one thing, and that's part of what he's always angling to do is be treated in his current role almost as a god.
Right.
And, he hasn't earned it.
How does that conflict with the actual gods that are out there? Like
they laugh at him,
Merkel
they mock him, and
Bane and all them. They're like, no, you'll never be one of us.
Well, Merkel and Bane are interesting choices because they're so weird. And they're sort of these demigod-like figures now. Well, if you're going to become a god, this is a little off topic, but if you're going to become a god, the first thing you have to do is you have to mass a substantial density of followers, worshippers, essentially, so that the cosmic forces of the multiverse recognize you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you might have to kill off another god to take their portfolio, because there aren't just portfolios floating around the astral plane waiting to be seized. So you kind of have to take somebody else's space. That's what Karsus tried to do, the Netherese wizard who tried to ascend to godhood. He tried to replace Mistral, the goddess of magic, and she said nope and smote him as he was making the attempt. With Zastam, he's got to seize upon somebody else's portfolio, be that, depending on the timeline, Kalimvor, the god of death, or the Raven Queen, if you've got a campaign with her in it, and Zastam, or Jurgle, or any other god that has ever existed. He's got to take their stuff.
It sounds like this could be a really interesting, like mid to high level kind of campaign that once you realize that there's this extra threat of this nation of a majocracy led by this leader. Yeah, it could be a thwarting this plan or trying to supplement what he's doing would be really fascinating.
And practically speaking, it wouldn't be impossible, particularly if you had red wizards on your side who would like to see him, finally ousted.
Yeah, I can see that too, going from like
Yeah.
location to location, trying to get these expatriates
Yeah.
from Thay and being like, all right, what can we do to stop this guy?
But in the interim, Zastam remains a threat because as he continues his bid toward godhood, he is going to do things like try to conquer other nations for their resources or to terrify people into worshiping him.
Yeah. What is Thay's, do they have an outward goal that everyone knows
Conquest.
about? Just taking over as much as they can.
Protecting what they have and taking over everything else.
Yeah. So do they have states that are subservient to them at this point?
At this point, there's land around the plateau that they control, but the nearest nations are not directly under their sway. That said, there are Thayan enclaves scattered throughout the Forgotten Realms.
Oh.
We've showcased one or two over the years where the Thayans operate out of to manipulate events. If you played through the intermediary, there were some intermediary adventures we did between 4th and 5th edition that featured Thay prominently, and one of the ideas was they were infiltrating settlements and towns and cities like Daggerford and other places on the coast to try to create new bases and dominate or enslave the people there.
Yeah.
So that they can basically rule puppet kingdoms, garner resources and influence that way, and eventually, when they do organize into a full-blown assault, they've got all these other places they can go to. And the thing about wizards is they know portals and they know teleportation. So if Thayans wanted an army in Waterdeep, even though their nation is 3,500 miles away,
Yeah.
magic could facilitate that pretty easily. So the building of teleportation circles and secret places, all these things are the kinds of things you have to think like a wizard, right? You have certain spells that allow rapid transit of large numbers of people. If you want to invade, you don't invade the person next to you. You invade the country 1,000 miles away, and nobody hears about it until it's too late.
Right. It's a nice way to bring like modernity of deploying forces to a fantasy setting like this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And since portals are such a big part of the Forgotten Realms, should they decide that they, want to control more of them, that would be to the detriment of everybody. Because then, they could show up in your backyard and there's not much you could do.
Yeah. And they're, yes, let's muster an army and
Yes.
defeat them there. But then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the threat is actually, that was
Yeah.
just a feint and they're somewhere else.
Something else to bear in mind, too, is that Zastam, like Karsus, who tried to take Mistral's place, Karsus' ultimate goal, of course, was to not only take Mistral's place as a god, but then have control over the weave itself. It is very much in Zastam's interest, and has been, for him to gain that level of power, where not only does he have control over the weave, but then can modify it so that only he and those like him can use it.
Oh, so it's not just a conquering of territory. It's like he wants to conquer magic itself.
Yeah, exactly. The conquering of magic itself is a huge thing for Thayans, because if they are the only ones who can control magic, then they are the only wizards, and that to them is how it should be.
Fascinating, because that's almost like, in our times, like controlling the internet or like controlling
Yes.
something that like is
Yeah.
super powerful. But yeah,
Exactly. To control magic is to control the world in their mind.
interesting. They sound like terrifying villains.
They are.
Yeah.
And we'll probably see them again because they are such good go-to villains.
I like that. All right. Thank you very much, Chris. I'm sure we'll spawn lots of questions from delving into the Red Wizards of Thay and Zastam. If people wanted to ask you any more specific questions, what's your home address? No, I'm kidding. What's your Twitter handle?
Shockingly easy to find out, by the way. My Twitter handle is Chris Perkins @DND.
Excellent. All right.
Or
Looking forward
at Chris Perkins DND. Sorry.
at Chris Perkins D&D. It's just Chris Perkins at D&D from now on.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. You're
that
making
won't
your own Twitter.
Yeah.
It's at D&D. Awesome. Thank you so much. We will delve into more lore in future segments. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry to put you on the spot there for some details.
Yeah, dates I don't keep in my head, and I have to look those up.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, totally get that. Was it the Haunted Lands trilogy that Richard Lee Byers did? Is that what you were talking about?
Yes.
All right. That got pulled up, and I wasn't sure if that's what was the correct thing. So for those of you listening and or watching on the Twitch, that was the series of novels.
Sass is a very bad boy. We
Yeah.
didn't talk about his buddy Larlock either. They're pretty fun combo.
Who's Larlock?
Larlock of Larlock's Crypt is arguably the most powerful lich on the planet.
Oh, more powerful than
Powerful,
Zaz?
yeah, oh yeah, but not of the same personality as Zas. I.e., Larlock likes to lock himself away in dark dungeons and never trouble anybody, whereas Zastam is all over the place, making a mess of people's lives.
So neutral evil is the other guy?
Probably, or maybe just neutral.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to want to be involved in world events at all.
He's just, I'm alive.
I'm down here. If you need me,
Deal with it.
yeah.
Interesting. All right, cool. We're going to do our another topic for lore you should know. Those of you on the Twitch watching, this is going to be a fun one in which we have 6 small topics that I'm going to roll a die, and we'll fire these at
These
Chris.
these are all plucked off a list that we got from the community. So
That's true, which I will have up here. So I'll hopefully be able to give shout outs to some of the folks who mention these when they come up. All right.